The Racing Pod on Off the Ball.
Well, you are welcome to episode 6 of The Racing Pod. JD's absence continues. Of course, he will be back in the new year. The great man, but one other great man, David Jennings, is with me yet again today. How are you, DJ?
I'm very good, Johnny. How are you?
I'm absolutely buzzing for the Christmas. Me and DJ are going to go through the Christmas offering in both Kempton and mainly Leopardstown. A bit of Limerick maybe thrown in as well. Possibly the best Savills chase, if not of all time, one of the really, really vintage renewals of the Savills Chase to talk about. So we'll go through some of the main races in the first half of the show, and then for members in the second half of the show, we'll go through even more. And we are delighted to be able to bring you this show every Friday. Every Friday it includes analysis, reviews, previews, tips, stories, interviews, and a bit of crack. And every week, as I say, the first half of the pod is free to air. The second half of the pod is for members. Be sure to sign up by going to offtheball.com/join, and you don't want to miss out on all the info. How are you, DJ?
I am great, Johnny. I'm great. Busy couple of days ahead between kids and then racing, obviously, afterwards. So a nice mix of the soppiness and the real serious stuff at Leopardstown and Kempton.
You can be quite soppy at times.
I am a disaster. I'm a real softie. I'll still get that feeling coming down the stairs on Christmas morning. We have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I cannot wait just to see the reaction on their faces. Yeah, I'm a big softie, Johnny. I'll hold my hands up. I'm a disaster, but I absolutely love Christmas morning.
Yeah, this is for everyone. Catherine, who's producing, just had a big smile as you said that. You are probably the two, I'd say you're two of the soppiest parents, you and the missus going. You DJ, you are, and your kids are going to, A, be very nice, and B, love racing, I think.
Yeah, we started the whole Christmas thing a bit too early with Georgia, kind of, back in maybe July, maybe not July, but September, October. It was like, if you don't brush your teeth, Santa won't come. And now it's got to the stage where it's like, when is he ever coming? Like, you're saying this for the last 3 months. So, yeah, we need to think of alternative ways of doing it next year, I think.
George on my mind, what a name. Okay, so the racing week, if we go briefly through it, what were the main stories that kind of grabbed your attention? We will talk about the Savills Chase and the kind of rejigging of plans maybe for a couple of the horses, but as we're getting closer, it's just going to be one hell of a weekend, isn't it?
Going forward, yeah, absolutely. It's the 4 days at Leopardstown obviously are terrific. I think since Stephen's Day or Boxing Day as they call it in England, racing wise, there is no other day on the calendar that so much happens so quickly, and you almost get lost in the whole magnitude of it all. And it's not just small things happening. You have a King George possibly on the back of Facile Vega against In the Pocket in the Racing Post Novice Chase, and you've got a brilliant Cauto Star Novices Chase at Kempton as well. And then you kind of forget about Constitution Hill, who's the best horse potentially we've ever seen, because he's obviously 1-10 to win the Christmas hurdle at Kempton, and you kind of say there's so much happening, he almost gets lost because he'll just win anyway, kind of thing. So there is so much happening. It's a great time to be a racing fan, like to be a sports fan at Christmas, where you've got the darts, you've got the soccer, and you've got the racing. If you're into those 3 sports, I'd imagine the next 7 days are going to be pretty cool.
I suppose, like, since I became a journalist, a sports journalist, the weekends, and like I never know when there's a bank holiday or anything like that, because it literally makes no difference to me in terms of the workload. What's it like for you working from the 26th onwards?
I love it. Personally, I love it. A lot of people, and you kind of get the kind of, oh, you poor thing, you're working after Christmas when everybody else is off. But you kind of get the best of both worlds, because you get Christmas night and you have a few drinks and you might be playing games and that, and then the next morning the house might be a mess and you're like, well, cheerio, I'm off to Leopardstown, you can do the cleaning. And then you kind of, because the last race is so early, like the last race probably the latest it's going to be is 20-4 or 3:45, so you're usually home by about 5 o'clock, so you get the 4 evenings as well at home. So you kind of get the best of everything. If you're into the racing, it's kind of sandwiched in between basically 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, all the good races. So yeah, I can't complain, Johnny. Look, I have a great job and I love it, and I'm really looking forward to going to Leopardstown, which is probably, I would say, atmosphere-wise, potentially the best meeting of the year. Everybody's in good form, everybody's off work, everybody is meeting people. You kind of see, since Stephen's Day has kind of become a day where a lot of the younger crowd from around the area kind of meet and greet. But then you've got the other 3 days where I know my own family are going, like they always go the 27th and the 28th, and there might be relations of theirs that they mightn't see for the whole year, and they go them days as well. So it's one of my favourite meetings of the year for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned atmosphere. Like, I would implore anyone who does go to Limerick, Down Royal or Leopardstown or even Kempton or wherever you're going this Christmas, make some noise, because, like, if you look back, DJ, at Denoli's winning of the Hennessy. I mentioned this a lot, and the hairs will still rise in the back of your neck listening to the crowd roar the horse home. That's primarily gone from Irish racing. Like it's gone from 99%, in some respects 100% of meetings. And I think racecourses really need to encourage people to make noise, to make it an atmosphere, to make it actually kind of an occasion that you say, yeah, I want to go back there again.
Absolutely, yeah. The only place I can remember it happening in the last couple of years is Cheltenham, and you obviously get the roar before the Supreme, and you do get in the big races, you get the kind of audible gasps, like when Constitution Hill kicks clear, or when Gallop in the Shams and Brave Man's Game came down to the last in the Gold Cup. You get that kind of feeling of everybody is really getting up on their tippy toes and really getting excited. But all too often, these races are finished in silence. So you need, as you say, that atmosphere. You need a bit of roar and a bit of shout and a bit of living in the moment. I think that's something probably we're not doing as much as we should at the moment. Yeah. We're not living in the moment. And I know that's probably a catchphrase that Horse Racing Ireland have tried to use in the last couple of years. But for those, 6 minutes of the Savills chase on Thursday, like that's, as you said earlier on in the show, Johnny, that is the race of the season. It's a Gold Cup 2 months early in Leopardstown in Ireland, with the top three in the betting for the Cheltenham Gold Cup running in the Savills Chase. And if you can't get people out of bed to go to Leopardstown for a race that has Gallop in the Shams, Jerry Colomb, Fast or Slow, Aplutar, Envoy Allen, sure, you're never going to get them going racing.
Is Gentleman's Game going?
No, Gentleman's Game is waiting for either the Cotswold Chase at Cheltenham or the Irish Gold Cup in February.
So it has pretty much everything else. We look back at the weekend that was... I have to say, like the kind of the Bryony Frost loving in the press in Britain, kind of, by all accounts, Bryony's a great character. I don't know her at all, but I think the loving is a bit much at times. But you did have to have massive sympathy for her in the Virgin Bet December Gold Cup. She's done a little Ridotto literally by a short head, and as I was watching the race, Fugitive gets up under Gavin Sheehan. As I was watching the race, DJ, two horses went well clear. My eye was drawn towards So Scottish until he fell at the fourth last, not out of it. But you're looking at the two horses in front and you're like, okay, they're surely going too fast. Then they get to the second last, actually maybe not. And then as they come to the last, you're like, oh, Bryony's going to be done like a couple of lengths here, done on the line.
Yeah, I think she's terrific on front runners. We've seen it on Frodon, who she won the Ryanair on, and the King George. She just seems to get that extra little note out of them, kind of up the run in whatever way she does it. Like you think they're gone, and she's getting a great tune out of them the whole way. But then there's just one kind of little note left that she managed to get a re-rally out of Il Ridotto. I, like you, Johnny, I thought it was interesting on the ITV coverage. You saw Mick Fitzgerald and Luke Harvey. They're trying to bring in the old way of doing things, the way Johnny Frankham or Jim McGrath were brought in mid-race on ITV and said, well, how do you think the race is going? Who would you like to be riding? This kind of thing. And I really liked that. Yeah. And it was interesting. They went to Mick Fitzgerald and Luke Harvey, and Mick Fitzgerald was like, oh, yeah, they're going quick enough. And then I think the commentator, it's Richard Hoyles, I think, and he said, can they keep it up? And Luke Harvey said, no, categorical. They're going too quick. Neither of these two horses are going to win. And he was almost proved wrong. Look, I was really sweet on So Scottish, as I said on the show last week. If you look back at the moment he fell and how much better he was travelling than the eventual winner Fugitive, he was a few lengths ahead of him. I'd say Mark Walsh was absolutely delighted because he was in the perfect place. He didn't go chasing after the two tearaways, but he was on front of his main dangers behind him. And I thought actually the whole way he was a little bit guessy over his jumps rather than, the assured way he usually jumps. But I still think he would have played a massive hand in the finish. I know this is completely crying over spilt milk, but that was pocket talk. But the finish was terrific. Fugitive and Il Ridotto, I think it was just a short header and no separated them at the line. It's what we want in the finish to these big races on a Saturday. And Fugitive, Gavin Sheehan, is having a terrific season. He was one of these riders, Johnny, I don't know what you think, but I kind of had him down as a middle of the road, never going to make it, won't be winning Grade 1's type of a jockey up until about 12 or 14 months ago. And all of a sudden now you're kind of going, well, he's probably a top 3 rider in Britain at the minute, and he's getting better. He is terrific, and more luck to him.
Yeah, I don't know if we sell enough either, just how tactically fascinating racing is. Like I was at Dundalk the other night, and some of the rides from the front, you're like, it just the race completely changes after a quarter of, say, like it's a mile and 2 race. After 2 furlongs, the complexion of the race has already completely changed in the space of 25 seconds because of the ride. Like Killian Leonard gave a horse a ride from the front, is like absolutely phenomenal. He was drawn worst, ended up making up the run and completely slowed it in front. They stacked him up, come into it straight. And like, if you look at the data and all of that, it's kind of still in its early days in terms of racing. But I suppose, how would you sell to people listening in or not racing fans how different one race can be to the next with the same horses?
Yeah, and tactically, I remember interviewing Ruby Walsh a couple of years ago, and he had retired from race riding at this stage, and he was becoming a pundit. And the point he was trying to make was, you watch kind of, you watch Monday Night Football on Sky, and you've got Jamie Carragher, and you've got Gary Neville, and they're analysing games to within an inch of their lives, and people are absolutely loving it. Why the inverted fullbacks? Why is Trent Alexander-Arnold slipping into centre midfield at this time? Who's covering him? Where are their chances coming from? And Ruby Walsh said to me, he wants to make people watching these races think about why these races are being won. Where are the tactics coming into play? And it's not just a case of, right, what am I going to back in the next race? What am I going to back in the next race? Because so much of racing is about trying to find a winner, and probably we don't appreciate the whole analytical point of it, and how Gavin Sheehan was so far back because he didn't want to be, and the pace they were going at on Fugitive, and why he made his move when he did. And even on the road to Cheltenham, a show with Ruby and Lydia Hislop, they've started doing now the time it takes from a horse, maybe 10 yards before a fence to 10 yards after a fence. He compared John Bon and Edward Stone in the Tingle Creek, and who's quicker over the obstacle, who's getting away from the obstacle quicker, and all that kind of stuff. And as you said, that ride from Killian Leonard the other night, like all that type of stuff.
Killian, by the way, had ridden one winner all year, I think that was his second winner this year in Ireland, and you're like, it's just a standard of jockeys now. Like, this lad is basically busy at Dunnacas, doesn't ride that often, and is like that's a ride anyone would be proud of.
Yeah, and I often think those kind of front running rides, when you do stall the horses behind you and then you kick at the right time and you get everything right. I'm possibly 6, 7, maybe 8 stone too heavy to be a jockey, but I'd imagine the most pleasure I'd get would be a front running ride where you stack everything up and then you kick and then you hold on. And I'd imagine that feeling, passing the line, knowing you're going back into a winning trainer who knows that the jockey won the race from. I'd say that's a lovely feeling. Yeah,
and Noel Kelly was certainly enjoying the night as well. He was in great form afterwards. I am slagging DJ. He was actually a very accomplished Gaelic footballer in his day, albeit a goalkeeper. Let's move on to what should we call it? I call it the 26th, DJ. Let's just call it the 26th. And let's call it the King George, the race in which we have so many memories of this Santa Claus trying to impede the great Barry Geraghty on Kicking King, the guts of 20 years ago. Some fabulous horses down the years. And just looking at this year's renewal, I suppose the thing you'd say about the race this year is that the makeup has changed in the sense that the Irish Challenge, it looked like Jerry Clon was going there, as you said previously. Now he's not. Allaho is trading at best price 7-4 favourite at the moment for one WP Mullins. He reappeared, DJ, winning at Clonmel in a kind of an egg. Well, it wasn't an egg and spoon race. It was a race in which he was superior to the rest. Did his job well. Don't really see many negatives here.
Is he as good as he was? That would be the negative I'd have, but
He won his last 4 races by 12 lengths, 14 lengths, 14 lengths and 9 lengths. What more can he do?
Yeah, but the problem is, Johnny, those 4 races are so far apart, and that's the key thing. Like, he went from running in the Punchestown Gold Cup on the 27th of April 2022 to not running again until November 2023 in the Clonmel Oil Chase, when he won basically a match race with Janadil, a stablemate. Grange Walk, I think, was rated far inferior to both of those. Look, I can see why people really fancy Allaho, and I can see why people would make him their banker of the whole Christmas period. And if the real Allaho shows up, he should be 4-7, not 7-4, and that's what people are clinging on to. It's just in the back of my mind. Willie Mullins has wanted to run Allaho in this race for the last 2 years. He's made it this year. I wasn't overly impressed with Clonmel. I thought he got the job done. It was a ring-rusty type of performance. He slowed into a couple. He didn't attack his fences the way he usually does. But you can allow him that because he hadn't ran for so long. And he still won, and he's still the best horse in this race if he is anywhere close to the level he got to when he won the Punchestown Gold Cup on his penultimate start. But I don't know. I just think at the prices, Johnny, you've got to take him on. I think if it was last year, or if it was the year before, or the year before, I'd be going, oh my God, Allaho, of course he wins the King George. I just don't think he will this year. Do you?
I think he probably will, just in the sense that I've been disappointed with Braveman's game. Like I was, to be honest, I was looking forward to Gentleman's game. Hopefully going to Leopardstown. I think if you threw Mouse, Martin Brassel, and all the top trainers into the mix, it would have been just a race of the ages. Now, I think, I do feel. I remember you tipping Gentleman's game up as a novice when he ran against none other than God, wasn't it?
Maximus.
I am Maximus. Like, I thought it was an absolute moral that day, and you were like, the price discrepancy is crazy here. And in hindsight, obviously, I am Maximus kind of ran into one. And you've a staying chaser trained by Mouse Morris, who's a sophomore. He's basically only getting going. So there is all of that. And in fairness, Braveman's game travelled all over him. So I was willing to give him a bit of a pass. Was it the ground elastic behind Royal Pagaille? Like, he really should be winning a race like of that nature to be winning this. For all that Paul Nicholls has said, I'm training him for the King George. I thought he was a bit disappointed. Maybe he's actually not the same horse after the Gold Cup last year.
Yeah, maybe he's not. I just like Haydock 3 mile 1.5 furlongs on soft ground. Is that Braveman's game? I know he ran well in the Gold Cup last year, but he was still outstayed by Gallop in the Shams. I just wonder, is he maybe 3 miles Kempton, 7 fences in the final mile? He's the best jumper in the race, if you ask me. I know Allaho is a brilliant jumper as well, but Braveman's game is one of the best jumpers of the modern era, for all that he made a Horlicks of the last fence in the Charlie Hall. Like, I kind of started the week thinking Braveman's game won't win, but the closer the race is getting, I'm kind of thinking to myself, he's the one that's going to be pinging every fence. He's the one with the, he's the defending champion who won this race last year, beat Lompress despite being on the wrong side of Lompress the whole way. He was on his outside and Lompress was jumping into him. He had him beaten when Lompress came down at the last. He still hammered Royal Pagaille in this race last year. I just wonder, is this his race? Like, is this his bread and butter? Is this his terms and conditions? And Harry Cobden being back on board is a massive bonus as well, because Harry Cobden, Braveman's game needs Harry Cobden, and Harry Cobden being back on board here is a massive plus. I am really scared of Shishkin. You don't know what you're going to get.
Everyone should be scared of Shishkin, including Shishkin.
Yeah, Shishkin, I think, terrifies himself.
Look, you know the smile that people have on their faces as they're lining up for the King George? Everyone has like a hot whiskey or like some hot port in their hand, and they're like, what time is it? It's 2:30. They're going down to start. Everyone's had a bet. What's Shishkin going to do?
Absolutely. It'll probably be the main talking point going into the 26th. Look, he didn't start at Ascot for whatever reason. And it kind of, I think people were surprised, but they weren't shocked, if that makes sense. Like, I think you were going, oh, he's a top class horse. Oh my God, I can't believe he didn't start. And then you're going, well, he's a bit ratty. He has his moments. He's the type of fella now you wouldn't want to be, meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd say, because I'd say he'd eat you in two. He takes a while to warm up, but he is hugely talented. And the thing about Shishkin is he is so unexposed over this trip. Like,
he really is.
The only time he's tried 3 miles, and it was 3 mile 1, was in the bowl at Aintree, where he beat the real Ahoy Senior, who never missed a beat. Don't read too much into the fact that Ahoy Senior has done nothing this season. He never missed a beat last year, Ahoy Senior. Like, Aplutar, former Gold Cup winner, was well beaten in third. Conflated was pulled up. He won it, and he won it through pure stamina and class. He's been trained, for all that he hasn't had a prep run, he's been trained for one race and one race only this season. Nicky Henderson has not trained him to win a Gold Cup. He's trained him to win the King George. He missed that run at Ascot, which is a shame, but he will be cherry ripe for this. And I actually make the race between Braveman's game and Shishkin. At the prices, I think you'd probably have to side with Shishkin.
DJ's man Gavin Sheehan is riding Hewick for John Joseph Hanlon, better known as the Shark. And Sam Twiston-Davies continues his partnership on the Real Whacker, who I put up obviously the last day on his return in the Paddy Power, absolutely bombed out. But if you forgive him that, he beat Jerry Colombe 2 runs back. He beat Jerry Colombe. I don't think there's any fluke about that. He's a horse that's going to make the running. Obviously has an asterisk now to his name. But this has been so much crack. We actually don't have time on the free-to-air part of the show to talk about Leopardstown. So before we get to the members part, I'm going to get a Christmas selection from DJ. And before that, your performance of the week as well.
My performance of the week. Okay, wow. Okay, performance.
I did tell you this beforehand.
You did, yeah, but it was just a very quick segue there. It was like we're talking about the King George, and all of a sudden you're going into performance of the week. Okay, my performance of the week. I'm going to go back to Cheltenham last Friday.
So am I, actually.
Yeah, I'm going back to Cheltenham last Friday. It's interesting to see if we pick the same horse. It is Dice Ardinos.
There we
Is
go.
Dice
And we
Ardinos
didn't confer. This is honest to God. We did not confer if there is a God. It's Dice Ardinos.
Yeah, I'll tell you, some viewers, only a small handful will know that I do a show called Up in the Ante for the Race and Post with Johnny Deneen. And, oh, look, I've had a shocking 2 seasons on the show. And actually, I think it's in its 6th season where we pick an anti-post team for Cheltenham every year. And the first 4 years went brilliant. I was in profit, fantastic. Last 2 seasons have been an utter disaster. But this season, I've actually started reasonably well. And one of my first tips was Dice Ardinos for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, I think 8 or 9 to 1. And I was actually nervous before she ran last Friday because I really needed her to produce the goods. I just loved the way she quickened up to beat the boys, beat the bat with second. Her jumping was much better than it had been at Huntington. She's shown her form last season when she won the Mayor's Bumper at Aintree, beating a reasonable enough team from the Willie Mullen stable. I think she's dynamite, and I think brighter days ahead will have to be really good to beat her at Cheltenham. I think she will give Fergal O'Brien his first Cheltenham Festival winner, and boy does he deserve it.
You're an absolute disgrace because we've run out of time here, and you haven't even give us your Christmas snap, or we'll never get it out of you.
Okay, my Christmas snap. I'm going to give you 2 if that's okay, Johnny. In the first race on St. Stephen's Day, the 26th at Kempton, I'll even get you the time, Johnny. The first race at Kempton is off at 12:45. This horse is 10 to 1 at the moment, but there is no way in the world that this horse will go off 10 to 1. It's a horse called Es Perfecto that's trained by Alan King. He's rated 123. He is far better than that. Gavin Sheehan is already booked.
Love it.
He ran an absolute corker, I thought, at Cheltenham on his chasing debut at the November meeting. He's going to make a smashing chaser. I can't believe he's 10 to 1.
Very briefly,
Johnny, if he goes off 10 to 1, if he goes off 10 to 1 on the day in that 12:45 at Kempton, I'll give you a year's supply of Guinness. I think he'll win, and I think he's a good horse. That's Es Perfecto in the 12:45 at Kempton on the 26th. And 27th, Paddy Power Chase. I'll get you the time of it, Johnny. The Paddy Power Chase at Leopardstown. It is due off at 3 o'clock. And I've thought for the last 6 months, maybe even longer, that Am I Right? AIMIRITE, trained by Henry de Bromhead. I've thought this was his race. Flat track, 3 miles, fast pace at Leopardstown. He's 14 to 1. He'll do for me. Am I right? On the 3 o'clock at Leopardstown on Wednesday.
Okay, I'm going to give Meeting of the Waters in the very same race, and actually that's for Patrick Mullins and his dad Willie. Bolts up a Cork, sneaks in off low weight, same connections as Rocky Boya. This is the Racing Pod and Off the Ball. If you're listening to the free version of the podcast, we'll be leaving you here, but if you're looking for more, including our analysis of a load of additional races over the Christmas, go to offtheball.com/join to subscribe, get the full podcast every Friday, and all our racing tips, insights and stories from the week's action.